Welcome everybody back to the Friar Talk podcast and YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about MacKenzie Gore. Now, if you haven't been paying attention, he had a really good start, had a ton of praise, and then his last outing was pretty rough. But we know how much up and down we've heard with MacKenzie Gore. We know that the control is not always great with him. He's had his stuff. It looks like his stuff is kind of back. His velocity is much higher than it was a little bit earlier. Um, there were like the finger injuries that he had, but he's good now. He's still playing. Chase, what do you think though, man? Like, where are you at before we get into like when is he going to get called up? Where are you just at with him as a player right now?
I think, seeing the velocity back up, that's a really good sign. The thing that I heard is I think he can only really locate one of his four pitches during his first start, which that is tremendous progress. I don't think he walked anybody. Yeah, if not, he walked one guy. His strikeouts were there. He went the distance in innings. Overall, his first outing was really, really promising. It showed what he is. It showed that this kid is the best minor league pitcher in the league. He won that award for a reason. And then he sort of followed it up, and he's just, I think it was 26 out of 54 pitches were balls. He walked like five. It was not a good outing for him. He struggled with all of his locations. His velocity was still there. He was just wild. So it feels like every time he takes a couple steps forward, he takes a step backwards. And you know what? At least in the end, he's still taking a step forward. So I'd really love to see him come out of this Arizona Fall League with no finger blisters, him getting like maybe 30 to 40 innings under his belt, and that his mechanics really solidify up. He gets the face to live hitting. He limits the walks. He locates all his pitches. He has the potential, and he's working back up to living to it. He's just something is not quite clicking on every cylinder, every single game. And once he's there, I think he's going to be fine. He's going to be a great pitcher, like we all know he's going to be. And I'm going to let you go before, because then it's going to lead up into when he's going to get called up. But I want to hear your opinions first.
Yeah, so for him just as a player, I think that everyone's got pretty frustrated, but we have to remember this dude's only 22. Like, he got drafted right out of high school. Getting called up at 21, 19, 20, like that kind of age, like super young, super early call-ups, it doesn't happen to every top prospect. It really doesn't, especially pitching where he went from, like, he was so dominant in high school, and then he just keeps going up and playing better and better competition. And this year he's playing the best that he has. Now, the issues weren't really about like how he matched up against the competition with his stuff, but it was the control, where now there's a lot more pressure on him to pitch with control, and the guys have better discipline. It's not just like, oh, we can't hit this guy. Like, it's not that approach. Like, they can't hit off him a lot better than guys that he's played against in the past. Like, jumping up in talent, it's going to cause issues for a lot of prospects. So I think that it's not like super abnormal that a pitcher's struggling with control and stuff at 21 years old, 22 years old even. So I'm not super concerned with him because we've seen like he's a great pitcher. And the Padres, they need that future left-handed ace, I think. And I think he's still like, to me, is going to get there. The velocity's back up with his fastball. The location with his fastball was so bad a while back, and it seems like that's back for the most part. Like you said, he couldn't locate one of his pitches in his most previous outing to us recording this. But I think we're going to see him just continue to get a little bit better. It might not be super consistent, but he's going to have like, all right, he's having more positive outings than negative outings now. And a couple months ago, it was the opposite, where he was like struggling more often than not. And then every once in a while, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's the MacKenzie Gore we know. But people are starting to catch on. We've seen some writers. I saw a quote. He's back to being the best guy in base, best pitching prospect in baseball. And then of course he falls it out with, a bad outing. But the potential is still clearly there. And I feel like there are Padre fans that have given up on him. And I don't think that's the right move right now for anyone. I think that we should still have a lot of faith in MacKenzie Gore becoming that guy. It just might take a little bit longer than I think a lot of us initially expected. And that's okay, because that happens to a lot of guys. even if he doesn't get called up for 2 more years, he'd still be getting called up at 24. And that's nothing to even panic about. And I think he's going to get called up sooner. But Chase, when do you think he's going to get called up?
I'd say this year. I wouldn't say maybe straight out of spring training. I think it really depends on how he does spring training and how he carries himself throughout this Arizona Fall League. If he continues to have more good outings than negative outings, then I think, you know what, it really just rides on him being really good in spring training. Because the few times we got to see him in spring training, or for me when I was watching him on TV, he was really wild. And that was kind of the one things that the Padres were looking at is, can this guy pitch with control against, high caliber hitters? He didn't have that ability. He was pretty wild with all of his pitches. So if he shows control with at least 3 out of 4 pitches, then I think it's fine. I also really think it matters on who the Padres pitching coach is going to be and can they handle a rookie. But at the same time, I think him being up in the major leagues and being able to discuss how to go about things with Adrian Morejon coming back probably mid-year. He can talk to another young kid, be like, how did you get through this? Then you can also rely on Snell, who was, that ace caliber pitcher that started to turn it around last season. Like, how did you get through this? You struggled with control. You struggled with finding your fourth pitch. How'd you go about only throwing 3 of them instead? How'd you figure out your location? Having all these veteran guys to teach him that are lefties and, really, really help him more than, just kind of sitting in the minor leagues, just waiting and waiting and waiting. Sure, he may get the reps more, but I think there's more knowledge from learning from veterans and learning at the MLB level for him than just sitting in the minors for another year. He has the talent. He's starting to come around. Let him be that guy. Whether or not that means you implement a 6-man rotation, whether or not that means he's being like a mid-innings reliever, kind of be like Ryan Weathers, come in 3 innings after the starter, maybe even 4 just to stretch him out. He can play a really vital role next year that, we saw the bullpen had a lot of injuries. Our rotation had an incredible amount of injuries. We need him to be ready. And I think he's going to be right there at the end of this year. So I think he's going to get called up maybe after like the first, maybe second month, if not right away, and starting in the bullpen.
So, Chase, one more quick question. You said that for you, like being comfortable, like to be comfortable, like calling him up, it would just be he'd need 3 out of 4 pitches to like show that he has a lot of control with those pitches. Like he's just not like all over the place. Is that it? Is like that the only thing that you're looking for?
Yeah, as long as his command is there with 3 out of 4 pitches and his velocity stays consistent, I think he's fine. We saw Blake Snell this year be incredibly successful with 3 out of 4 pitches. You don't necessarily need that 4th pitch to be an incredibly successful MLB pitcher. We saw Clayton Kershaw be a 2-pitch pitcher for a while. Then once people found the curveball, he switched to the slider, and he was incredibly successful with those 3 pitches. You don't need a 4th pitch to be an ace caliber pitcher. You don't need to be Yu Darvish throwing 11 pitches. It's just it's not practical. If you can really hone 3 out of your 4 pitches and make them monstrous and throw them in any time in the count, that 4th pitch is going to just kind of a reminder, hey, I can still throw this. I'm just going to use this, throw you off a little more. But if he doesn't, it doesn't have to be consistent for me. As long as he can get 3 out of 4 consistently, it doesn't matter which 3. But that was also one of the things that was kind of nagging him early on in his career, is he didn't always have all 4 pitches working. He'd have 2 pitches normally, then sometimes the 3rd, but you would never have all 4 working in a night. So if he gets 3 out of 4 consistently, I think that's a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right. I feel similar. I think that most of it is going to be like, okay, how consistent is he? Is he going out there and are his velocities going way up and down? Because that's what happened earlier this year. But for me, like we've already seen, like he has the stuff. Like he can do it. He has like his pitches are like he's really good. Like he has a ton of movement. He can throw his fastball with a lot of velocity, a lot of movement, and hitters struggle with him. Like in the past when he has his stuff going, like you said, you can usually always point to like, oh, what's wrong? And I don't think that's what happens with every guy, where it's like so obvious, like, oh yeah, he just has no command today. Oh, what's wrong with him today? He can't throw this specific pitch. He can't do it. If he can get over that, he has ace-like stuff. And when he's on, even when he's struggling and then he has a game where he's on, like he still does great. Like that's what you notice in his games. Like his games are pretty weird. Like it's pretty obvious, like, oh, is he having a good game or is he having a bad game? Every once in a while, he'll start out slow and then he'll get it going. Because we've seen him do that a few times where it's like, oh, it was like at the end of the year, one of his last outings, it was like, oh, he walked like 5 guys in the first 2 innings, and then he threw like 4 shutout innings or something, or like 2 or 3 extra shutout innings, I think it was. And he like allowed like 1 run, like he got out of it. Like it was a really good, good job by him. But to me, I'm kind of in the same spot. I think it'll be 1 to 2 months after the year starts, maybe like post All-Star break too, maybe around that time. But I wouldn't be upset at all if he's up there, coming out of spring training. I don't think it has to happen because we have to see him make some progress. And another thing, like you said, a lot of it's going to depend on the pitching coach. If you have a super young pitching coach that's trying to get Darvish to bounce back, and Snell, I do think he bounced back towards the end of the year, but to have a bounce back season, keep Musgrove in that same spot he was in, like that's already 4 guys where you got a lot going on. And then you add in a rookie, and then you add in Clevenger coming back from Tommy John. Like the Padres pitching staff's in a pretty weird spot, I feel like. Like the only guy that's like he's coming off a year where he just needs to do the same thing, not the same thing. Like you have to make adjustments, but perform the same way he did. The only guy like that is Musgrove. So there's a lot on whoever's the new pitching coach. So I do think that's going to be a pretty big factor as well. And maybe it's one of those things too, like they come out and, oh, Clev looks pretty good. Darvish looks like he's back. All right, now we feel comfortable bringing up MacKenzie Gore. Maybe it's just even that, like just to maximize MacKenzie Gore, where when he's down in the minors, like he's getting a lot of people looking at him. Also, it would help too. I don't know how many times we brought this up. Maybe you bring a few other pitching coaches, a few other coaches to help develop MacKenzie Gore at the major league level when he gets called up as well. But I'm with you. I think we're going to see him like a month or 2 after the year starts. I think that's the best way to do it. If he comes out spring training, I don't think you're going to see you or Isaac complaining at all. I think we're going to be pretty pumped, but we have a ton of faith in this guy. So anything else you want to say before we take off?
Just don't give up hope on him, man. It's prospects take a while, especially ones coming out of high school. You see kids coming from the Latin American countries or from international signings, they get signed at 16. They don't make their debuts until like sometimes their mid-20s or their early 20s. They get over 4 years of development. Let's give MacKenzie Gore some time. So that's all I gotta say.
Totally with you. So that's gonna do it for today's episode. We will be back tomorrow. It might just be Chase and Isaac. I might be in this one as well. We'll have episodes on Friday, Saturday, and then me and Isaac will be going live on Sunday, and then nothing on Monday. But Tuesday through Saturday recording, Sunday live stream. Thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you very soon.